The powerful gathered. That's exactly where our story begins, and trust me, you'll want to stay until the end, because the truth hidden in plain sight will leave you stunned. If you find yourself moved by this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful tales that honor resilience, sacrifice, and the human spirit. The conference room buzzed with chatter as high-ranking officers prepared for the morning's briefing. Charts were set up, laptops opened, and aides moved briskly between desks. Near the back, balancing a tray of steaming mugs, stood Daniel Hayes, a man the others hardly noticed. To them, he was just a civilian helper, a single dad who needed the job badly enough to humble himself. To Daniel, it was a way to provide for his daughter, even if it meant swallowing his pride. He kept his head down, silently placing cups before colonels and generals. A few barely looked up, some muttered thanks, and others treated him as if he weren't there at all. Daniel didn't mind. He'd seen worse, much worse. He'd stood in places no one in this room could imagine, places where silence and shadows decided who lived and who didn't. But no one here knew that. No one here knew that beneath the plain shirt on his wrist was a ring, a gold trident, the mark of a Navy SEAL. As Daniel reached the far end of the table, a voice cut through the chatter. You missed one. It was a young officer, smirking as though Daniel were an incompetent waiter. Daniel gave a faint smile, placed the last cup, and turned to leave. But as he did, the door opened and silence washed over the room. A woman in crisp uniform entered, her presence commanding instant respect. General Catherine Monroe, one of the few female generals in the armed forces, and one who carried herself with the weight of decades of service. Her eyes swept the room, pausing only when they landed on Daniel. For a moment, her brow furrowed. She didn't see a coffee server. She saw the way he moved, measured, alert, disciplined. Something about him didn't fit. Who's he? She asked, nodding toward Daniel. One of the colonels chuckled. Just the help, ma'am. Brings the coffee. Daniel stopped, unsure whether to bow out quietly or acknowledge the scrutiny. The general's gaze shifted downward, and then she froze. Her eyes locked onto the ring on Daniel's hand as he adjusted the tray. A gold trident. The unmistakable symbol of the Navy SEALs. The room shifted. Officers glanced at each other, realizing what she had noticed. The colonel who had just dismissed Daniel went pale. General Monroe's voice softened, but carried authority. Where did you earn that ring, Mr. Hayes? Daniel hesitated. He hadn't wanted this moment. He'd kept his past buried to protect his daughter from the life of shadows he once lived. Ma'am, he said carefully, with SEAL Team 6. 2 decades of service. Gasps rippled around the table. The smirks vanished. The young officer who mocked him lowered his gaze. The general's face remained unreadable, but her eyes gleamed with recognition and respect. She stepped forward, extending her hand. You don't serve coffee. Not anymore. You've served enough. Daniel shook her hand, feeling the weight of years he had carried alone. He didn't need medals or recognition, but in that moment, being seen mattered. For years he had lived as just a single dad, trying to keep food on the table and his daughter safe, while burying the nightmares of his past. But here, in this unexpected moment, his sacrifices were finally acknowledged. Later that day, General Monroe called Daniel into her office. She spoke not as a superior officer but as someone who understood the cost of service. Why didn't you tell anyone? She asked. Daniel's voice broke as he explained. Because my daughter, she's all I have. She doesn't need a soldier for a father anymore. She needs someone who comes home every night. So I left that life behind. The general nodded, her eyes softening. But that doesn't erase what you gave. You don't have to hide it. In fact, men like you inspire the next generation. The following week, Daniel wasn't carrying trays anymore. He was offered a role as an advisor, someone whose experience was too valuable to waste. It paid better, it meant stability for his daughter, and it gave him back something he thought he had lost forever, dignity. One evening, as he sat with his daughter at the small kitchen table, she looked up at him and asked, Daddy, why did the general give you a medal today? Daniel smiled faintly, brushing her hair back. Because she saw me. For the first time in a long time, someone saw me. And maybe that's the real lesson of this story. Sometimes the strongest people are the quiet ones, the ones who don't demand attention, the ones who serve even when no one is watching. But when their truth is revealed, it reminds us all of the silent sacrifices that protect our freedom. So the next time you see someone who looks ordinary, remember, heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes, they wear the scars of battles you'll never know about. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs a reminder of what true honor looks like, and subscribe for more stories that uncover the hidden strength within everyday people. Because these stories matter, just like Daniel's.